Luis Palau calls it a drama straight from a Hollywood script. In fact, some of the characters in this real-life drama have been portrayed in popular movies. The Jim Vaus story is told by his son Will, who holds a BA in drama from the University of California at San Diego and an MDiv from Princeton Theological Seminary. He lives in Virginia with his wife Becky and 3 sons, James, Jonathan, and Joshua. And you're also a man we might remember as a great C.S. Lewis fan and author of books about him.
Yes, absolutely.
This is not the background we expected, Will.
No, a little bit different.
Your father really went from a who's who in evangelical circles to a who's who in America for other historic reasons.
Yes, my father grew up in a Christian home. His father was a dean and professor of Hebrew at Biola, the Bible Institute of Los Angeles. His mother was a Jewish convert to Christianity. And so he grew up in that environment and was kind of expected to follow his father's footsteps, but didn't at first.
Grandma Lily, a Jewess, converted in 1896 at the age of 12. Her mother and sister eventually, too, came to trust in Jesus as Messiah. But she said something, and you say this early in the book, I think it's a profound statement. The devil loves a shining mark.
Yes, that was her saying that she spoke often to my father when he was young. She realized he was a young person with a lot of talents and gifts that God had given him. But she also realized the devil was going to be on his heels, so she warned him.
Will, it's not right for me to jump to conclusions, but something stood out. Depression years. Your dad thought that his family was poor.
Yes.
They were not poor.
No, they weren't.
But he couldn't have all the things that he wanted, and he blamed Christianity for his lot in life. He thought that their faith and their life of faith was robbing him of the life he wanted.
Yes, I think to him as a young person and growing up with a preacher father, Christianity just wasn't exciting enough. You know, he was stimulated always, his mind, by things he could learn, you know, getting into electronics at a young age. And he was always interested in a challenge and looking for that challenge.
He needed to push the envelope,
yes,
as we sometimes say.
Pressing the limits.
And mischievous. I mean, he did some naughty, some edgy. I mean, he was a bit of a rascal.
Yes, from the time he was young, you know, burning down the chicken coop in the backyard just so he could see the fire trucks come from down the street, you know, that sort of thing.
That's a good example. And then he got, born with a left hemisphere that could just figure things out. The day would come where he would take his invention to the FBI to see if they wanted to buy it. That's where the wiretapping became hot.
Yes, but actually his first wiretap was of his sister when she brought her boyfriend home on their first date. And he set up a microphone under the couch in the living room, ran the wire out to the backyard, put up loudspeakers, and charged admission for all the kids from the neighborhood. So that was his first wiretap.
Is this an entrepreneur or what?
I think so.
The FBI kept that invention long enough to figure out how to make their own, didn't they?
Yes, they did.
Not a nice chapter. And your dad had a number of disappointments. I'm not condoning his choices, but
no.
As you read this very full story, and may I just sidetrack my own sentence and say this was like a movie. If I had to go away from it, I couldn't wait to get back to the rest of the story. A lot of well-known figures in your dad's journey we discover.
Oh yes, Dr. Talbot at Biola, you know, was very much a part of my dad's young life. My dad went to Biola, was later asked to leave there because of his some of his activities, wiretapping the girls' dormitory among them. Yeah, so quite a number of important people. And as you mentioned at the opening, Henrietta Mears, later on at Hollywood Presbyterian Church, and Dr. Louis Evans Sr. He was engaged to Louis Evans Sr.'s daughter at one time. And quite a number of people.
Engaged 2 or 3 times before your mom?
Yeah, a couple of times.
Yeah.
took him a little while to land the plane in the right place, you know.
Your mother is still living. She's 80 years of age, and she just has always been beautiful.
Yes, she's a beautiful
woman. And she really was a big part of the writing of this book.
Oh, absolutely. I read each chapter to her out loud as I was writing it. I was especially blessed in that my father left behind some notes for a new memoir that he wanted to write. And he had written the first few chapters, so I just kind of took that, put it in my own voice, and I learned a lot about his early life that I didn't know before.
Well, let's see if we can just touch on some of the chapters. This should be a movie. Has anybody made a
Well, there
approach?
has been interest in a movie, and I hope a new one will be made. Of course, you mentioned Wiretapper, which came out in 1955, but we'd like to see an update to that.
Okay, we'll look at that in just a moment. We've got to get your dad there. 30 years he spent, dangerous attempts, we have to say, to fill the infinite abyss.
Yeah, there was an emptiness inside of him that I think he was trying to fill in lots of different ways.
How did Mickey Cohen, who is really the understudy of Bugsy, help me?
Bugsy Siegel.
Bugsy Siegel. How did he connect with your dad? Because that's where things really got...
That's where things got hot, yes.
Hot.
Well, my father had already had a criminal career. He had been arrested for holding up an elderly gentleman in Beverly Hills and sent to prison when he was just 19 years old. Then he was in the Army and court-martialed for misappropriation of government property and sent to jail again. And then when he got out after the war, he set up an electronics business in Southern California. Got involved in wiretapping for some of the movie stars in divorce cases in those days and worked with a private detective on that.
Mickey Rooney was one of his first
Mickey Rooney
clients.
was one of them, and that's how Mickey Cohen, who, as you said, worked for Bugsy Siegel, that's how Cohen found out about my father and invited him to his office. And my father went into this plush room in the back of Cohen's haberdashery, and Cohen was sitting behind this big circular desk. And Cohen said, Vaus, did you put a listening device in my home? And my dad said, no, I don't even know where you live. And he said, well, if there was one in my home, could you come and remove it? And my father said, well, you misunderstand. I'm in the business of putting them in. I don't take them out. And then Cohen reached into his pocket and pulled out a wad of $100 bills and just started peeling them off one right after another. And he said, does this change your mind? And my father said, well, I think my business is about to expand. And that one job that he did for Cohen led to many others, mainly electronic surveillance and protection during the Battle of the Sunset Strip when Cohen was fighting for the kingpin position in organized crime in Southern California.
In fact, the movie The Godfather, the Marlon Brando, Don,
Yes.
reflects much of what was known of this man.
Yeah. Mickey talked like that, you know, just like Brando, except he wasn't the Italian. He was the Jew.
And the horse head thing?
Yes.
He actually...
That was Mickey Cohen.
Oh my goodness. I wouldn't like this company for very long. Your dad was brave to even go there.
Yes, well, he liked the people he got to meet through Cohen. Cohen was very popular in the Hollywood circle of the stars and the starlets.
We have a picture of, this is your dad when he was into the bad stuff. That's Mickey Cohen in the center.
Yes, with one of my father's electronic devices there.
Your dad was ahead of the game with this stuff.
Yes, he was. Yeah, he was doing simple things too, like garage door openers long before most people had them.
Had one. Now, this is a district court. Your dad, I believe, is heading in to testify against Mickey Cohen.
Yes, he was reluctant to do that. This is after my father's conversion, and he was subpoenaed to testify, so he didn't have a choice. Cohen had been good to him. Even after his conversion, you know, they remained friends, and so he was reluctant to do it, but his testimony resulted in Cohen going to jail for a long prison sentence.
The pictures are amicable in here. It's sad to think that, as far as you know, Mickey Cohen didn't respond to faith.
And he had so many opportunities. My father, you know, shared the good news of Christ with him many times over the years and just lived it in his life. And Billy Graham's father-in-law, L. Nelson Bell, visited Mickey Cohen in every prison where he was in the United States.
Wow.
And shared the gospel with him. But we were with Mickey shortly before he died in the hospital in the early 70s. He was dying of cancer, and so far as we know, he never gave his life to Christ.